Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. And if you're looking for some Seraphon content, you have come to the right place. That's pretty much all we talk about here. Today we're looking at starting a Seraphon army. What are you buying for it in Age of Sigmar 3.0? What are your lists going to kind of look like? And what are some good value? So we're going to focus on a couple different things if you're starting your army from scratch. We can either go Skink focused army, Saurus focused army, a monster heavy army, and then we're going to kind of look at what you can expand into, and then some good value picks in the Seraphon range. Just a big range, lots of choices, some old models, some new models, and overall just an incredibly fun army to play in Age of Sigmar. So before we get into that, I think there's a couple major questions you have to ask yourself. The biggest one, I think, is what sub-faction are you wanting? Are you looking at Skinks or Saurus? It's really two separate armies within this army. Now, a lot of times you can mix and match a little bit, but the models and play styles tend to kind of favor one or the other. If you really like the Skink stuff, you want to have a bunch of hordes, you want to have some precision play there, then you're gonna tend to focus on the Saurus or on the Skink. If you're looking for heavy melee, some toughness, you're looking for the Saurus faction. There's also some different play styles. You know, Seraphon is a big range, it's a big army list, and so you can have a bunch of different play styles within Seraphon lists. You can focus on magic domination, talking about your croaks and your slans, and we've got a bunch of little wizards. We've got wizards on dinosaurs. We've got a lot of ways that we can dominate that magic phase. We've got pluses to cast, pluses to unbind. We have special rules for endless spells. So if that's your play style, you really want to focus in on those wizards and start building up those core synergies that go with them. You can also do board control, where you do MSU, minimum units. So like the minimum strength units, so small units that you're teleporting around the board, you're moving around, just trying to control the board space. You can also focus on shooting. That's a lot of times that's with Skinks, but we also have, weirdly, a lot of really good monsters that shoot. You can also focus on melee. You're looking more at the Saurus stuff there for the melee. And my personal favorite is you can just bring a bunch of monsters to the table. We have special rules that let monsters in Thunder Lizards be battle line. And so instead of bringing a bunch of small guys as your battle line requirement, you can actually bring monster stegodons as your battle line. And so you can have quite a few different play styles here within Seraphon. And I think that is one of those questions that you need to ask yourself when you're looking at building into Seraphon. Which way am I wanting to go? Is one of these play styles, is one of these sub-factions my target here? And that's what I'm going to start building for. And that kind of helps you figure out what kind of list you want to build. We also have some great centerpiece models. We have the new Lord Croak, which is a incredibly dense, complex model, a lot of fun to paint, and can be a lot of fun on the table too. Provides some epic roll-offs as you're deciding whether this model lives or dies. May not be the most competitive right now, but it is a lot of fun. It makes a great centerpiece model. We also have these big dinosaurs, stegodons, carnosaurs, bastillodons, that look incredible on the table. Everybody likes playing against those because they're these big, stompy monsters on the table, and they're actually pretty good in Age of Sigmar 3.0, where there's a lot of focus on these monsters. We also have ability to bring hordes, whether you're hordes of skinks, hordes of warriors, or hordes of Saurus Knights. We have those options for hordes if you're looking to paint up a big giant horde for your centerpiece. I think the last question I threw on here is to go trek or not to go trek. And if you're looking at starting up an army, especially in order, go trek is an easy piece to put in. I think he's like $30, $35 American dollars, and he's 435 points, and he's a beat stick right now. So if you're looking for a fast way to fill out your army list, go trek isn't a bad option. He's somewhat competitive right now as we're looking at these big heroes that are bouncing around the board. Go trek is a good way to counter some of those. So it might be worth an option if you're not completely tied to only lizards. You can throw in go trek in there as an easy, cheap piece to fill out your army. So once you kind of figure out those questions, I think you can really focus in on what army you're going to look at. We're going to look at a couple of different ones here as we're going to start building. The first one we're going to look at is our skink focused army, and luckily we have a start collecting skinks box for this. And this box is a good deal. It comes in at $90 American dollars, and it has 17 different models with it. Now these are a little bit of an interesting collection here, because they're not all top tier picks in a skink army, but I think they all have their role. And so, as you can see here, we have these 3 pterodon riders, and these in this list, you can focus a lot on pterodon riders if you want to, and you can make a pretty decent list out of them. They got a little bit worse, I think, in Age of Sigmar 3, as they're a little bit harder to play, but they still have some incredible mortal wound output. But if you're buying boxes of start collectings, I think they're going to end up being your objective grabbers, your board control units, because they're incredibly fast. They can drop mortals, and they fly. And so they are going to be going across the board, scoring the objectives, maybe sniping out those small units of the opponent that's holding an objective, or maybe their weak hero that's left out in the open or something. And so these guys have their uses. A Bastiladon is great. I love the Bastiladon models. That's one of the first models that actually got me into SERAPHON. And this is kind of where this box is almost a weird fit, because the Bastiladon is actually the best in Thunder Lizards, but this box is really focusing more on the Starborn side of the army and your Skinks side of the army. And so where the Bastiladon really shines is in Thunder Lizards, but it's not bad here in the Skinks. I mean, it's got more speed. It can be teleported around to shoot things, so it's still a decent fit. And you do need monsters in just about every list so that you can get extra battle tactics and things in Age of Sigmar 3. We've also got 12 Skinks, which is a weird number because you can only take them in units of 10, but that's because this sprue is an old sprue, and they came in units of 6 and 12 back in the day, and so they're still in those old unit sizes. Back when GW would put these models in random unit sizes in the box, so it does come out with an odd number. And we get a Skink Star Priest, which, to be honest, is almost in every one of my lists, because a Skink Star Priest, it just has so much value in a list. And so it's a great box here, and especially if we're looking to fill out a Skink list, we can buy multiples of those. I think another thing that you're going to end up getting in just about every list is a Slann. He does come in at $55, which is a lot, but for a small hero. But he offers a lot of utility, especially in Skink lists where you need those casters, you need those summoning points, and he provides a lot of great magic utility in this list. And so for my Skink list, I'm probably going to buy 2 of these boxes. I'm going to buy a Slann, and then I'm going to buy a couple extra boxes of Skinks. We're looking to maximize our Fangs of Sotek list into this army. So I think what you'd end up looking at is you'd get 2 of these start collecting boxes. You'd get a Slann, and you get 2 boxes of Skinks. Now I have here in italics 3 Skink Priests. And you can purchase those if you want this old, it's either metal or fine cast. I'm not sure what it is right now. But you could actually very easily kit bash this Skink Priest from all the different bits that you're going to have from the start collecting boxes. From the Skink boxes, you're going to have enough to make your own Skink Priests. But if you don't, you can purchase those. So we're talking $385 for an entire 2,000-point army, or $330 if you just kit bash your priests. Now, when you're looking at an entire army for about $330, that is great value, especially when you're going to be throwing down 100 models here on the table with all of this. These Skink boxes, they do come in that random amount of 24 in each box, but it's a great value at $38. And once we add in the 12 and 12 we get from the start collecting, we end up with over 70 Skinks. And that's enough to get us all our battle line and 2 big units of 30. So let's look at what our list looks like. Whoop. Skip too far. Here's what our list looks like for the Skink-focused army. And this is using those things we just talked about. And it is in Fangs of Sotek. We're maximizing those hordes of Skinks to throw out tons of shots. with those skinks. And we do have our hero there, the Slon Starmaster, as our general with command trait Arcane Might and Etixi Grubs, which lets him reroll 2 spells in his hero and 2 unbinds in the opponent's hero phase. So that makes him quite tough. Really lets him dominate that magic phase. You're going to be sitting him at the back of the board and just controlling that magic phase. Then we have our 2 Skink Star Priests that both came in those boxes, and our 3 Skink Priests that we either kit bash or we purchased. Those Skink Priests and Skink Star Priests are going to be buffing basically lots of different things in this army. They can buff everything in this army can receive a buff from those characters, and so they are great value. We do have 2 full units of 30 Skinks, and that maxes out our reinforcement points, and then another minimum unit of Skinks for our battle line. And with those start collecting boxes, we do have 2 units of 3 Pterodon Riders, and these are our objective grabbers. These guys are zooming around the board. Maybe you're going and chafing something up on turn 1 so that you can send in your important things to shoot and not get countercharged. Or maybe you need something to run into a unit so that they have to unleash hell on these Pterodon Riders instead of something important. You probably won't be charging too much in this army though, so that may not be something you do. Then we have our 2 Bastildons with solar engines as our behemoths, and a whopping 4 core battalions. This is a lot of drops, 13 drops, but if you're not getting a real low drop army, at this point you don't even care. I'll go 13 drops. Please let me go first. Or you take first turn and I'm going to double turn you and wipe you off the board. I mean, this is a lot of shots. This is a very shooting heavy list, but also has some board control with the Pterodon Riders and the teleports and the summoning from the Slon. So a good all-around list here. I like it. I like it a lot. And it comes in pretty cheap with a couple of start collecting boxes. And so that makes my skink-focused army. I think that's an easy one to put together, as long as you like building some skinks. But it has some monsters to help you score those objective points. It's got casting. It's got priests. It's got bodies. It's got shooting. It's a fun one. Our next army we're looking at is our Saurus-focused army. And luckily, we have a start collecting box for this one. Now, this start collecting box has been around for a while, and it's actually still a great value. It does come in at $90, and you get 21 models in this kit. You get this great Carnosaur, and you can kit him out as either an Old Blood or a Scar Veteran on Carnosaur. And you can also kit it out as the Troglodon, the Skink Oracle on Troglodon. I don't recommend that in a Saurus-focused army, although it could provide you with a tough hero if you needed it, a tough wizard if you needed it. But the important part is you do have that Skink Oracle that was on top. Makes a perfect Skink Star Priest or Skink Priest, whether if you need one of those for your list, and you need one of those in just about every list. So you will be using the bits from the Troglodon to make your Skink Star Priest. We also have 8 Saurus Knights. It comes in at a weird number. Again, this is an older kit, and so they don't put them in units that are actually used in the game, the unit sizes. But that means once you order more than one box, you can end up getting extras that you're going to end up using into a full unit. And 12 Warriors, which the Warriors are not in a great place in the game right now. They're not the best unit. They used to be okay if you could get them into the right battalions and stuff, but those battalions are gone now, and now they're really kind of hurting. But those Knights and the Carnosaur are great. And so we will focus on that box for our Saurus-focused army. And I think I have a Slon listed here. I have to see if I actually used him or not. So yeah, so we have our start collecting Seraphon kit here with our Carnosaur, 8 Knights, 12 Warriors for $90, plus our Slon, which we're going to use one of those. But I'm going to buy 3 of these Seraphon Saurus start collecting boxes, because we can use these in a nice giant Saurus Kotal's Claw list where we're slamming in a bunch of melee, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to bring some big dinos, and it's going to be fun. So I am buying 3 of those. I'm buying a Slon, and we're looking at another $325 right here for an entire Saurus army. We're staying under that 330 mark, and that is awesome. Out of those 3 kits, we're going to have a bunch of knights. We're going to have 3 big Carnos. We're going to have a big giant block of warriors just to kind of be our anvil on an objective. And I'm going to kit bash a couple of Skink Star Priests from the Troglodyte kit. And so you can kind of make a good overall list with all that. My list would look something probably like this. It would be in Kotal's Claw. I'm going to have my Scar Veteran on Carnosaur as my general with War Spear, Dominant Predator, Eviscerating Blade. Those are those command traits and artifacts we need to take in Kotal's Claw. And I'm going to throw Amulet of Destiny on another Carnosaur to keep him being tough, give that extra 5-up save. Those Carnosaurs can be a little weak. They can be a little glass cannon-esque. And so this will help them be a little tougher. I'm putting one on an Old Blood, and you might move your Amulet of Destiny down to the Old Blood, but I really like those Scar Vets, especially with a Knight-heavy list like this. My Slann Star Priest is there to generate command points, kind of do a little sniping with mortals, and to do some buffs with the spells. My 2 Skink Star Priests doing Hand of Glory, and they're going to be passing out those mortals and rerolls to my knights. That's what they're there for. They're also, this list can generate you quite a few command points. You've got a chance for an extra 4 command points, and then your Scar Veteran will be cycling some back, the ones that he spends. So you have a chance to get some good command point generation going here. Then I've got 4 units of knights. Once you buy 3 boxes, you're going to end up with a ton of knights. And so, I like that. That's good. You'll have more than what's listed here, but those knights are very useful. I like them a lot. They can do it. They have a ton of attacks that they're going to pump out. And then my 30 block of Saurus warriors are gonna be my reinforcements there to stand back on an objective and hang on tight. We're taking a warlord and a battle regiment for 7 drops. You'll probably still end up losing most priorities on turn 1. You won't get to decide at 7 drops, but that's fine with this. You're gonna move those warriors up the board maybe, or just start screening stuff off with all your extra knights and take board control. So there's my Saurus focused army. My next one would be the Stegodon focused army. Now this one is one of my favorites, and we've got the old Stegogeddon list building that they put up on GW that included a bunch of Stegodons. You can't quite build it like they had it back then. The points have changed a little bit, and we have some different buffs that we need to use now. They had a box at one time that was a fantastic deal. It was a Celestial Stampede. It included 2 Stegodon kits and a Bastiladon kit, which was just awesome because you could buy 2 of those, maybe even 3 if you're crazy, but you definitely 2 of those, and you could build out an awesome monster mash list. But this is a pretty simple list to buy because you're just buying a bunch of Stegodon kits. So the Stegodon kits makes the Stegodon battle line unit, also makes the Stegodon chief, the Skink chief on Stegodon, and it also makes the Engine of the Gods. And the Engine of the Gods just got a great upgrade into a full priest unit, and so now it's got prayers and it has the ability to heal and do mortals and things like that. So it's a great utility piece. But you're going to buy, what do I have here? 5 different Stegodon kits as part of this army because you're going to have 2 of them be your heroes. You're going to have 3 of them be your battle line. I've also added in 2 Bastiladon kits, and that will give you some shooting firepower. They're gonna stay in the back. They're going to be double tapping that Thunder Lizard firing list. And I've got 2 Skink Priests here. These guys right here are great because they will buff all of these. I'm specifically looking to at least buff 1 Bastiladon every turn with these Skink Priests, as well as one of my Stegodons that I know is going to be going into combat. You could easily kit bash those Skink Priests from the things that you have on the Stegodons. You can see here this Stegodon Skink Priest. It's actually a Skink Priest on the Engine of God sprue. Makes a perfect Skink Priest. He's literally a Skink Priest. So if you just take him off that Engine of the Gods kit and put him on 25mm base, then perfect Skink Priest. Costs you nothing. So at that, you're looking at $420 if you're kit bashing those, and you've got a bunch of monsters. You got 7 monsters, 2 smaller ones. Those fit well into a warlord battalion so that you can get that extra artifact, because the artifacts for Skinks, which all these things are fantastic. And so you have your Stegodon with Skink Chief as your hero, as your general, Prime War Beast, Amulet of Destiny to get that 5-up, and Sky Streak Bow, of course. Engine of the Gods, get your Fusel of Conflagration out of the way so you can do some mortal wounds from the engine. And your 2 Skink Priests. I don't have my prayer listed for the engine, but the engine does now get a prayer as well. And so you're going to be able to take all 3 of the universal prayers if you want to. I'm going to be putting Curse probably on my Engine of the Gods, Guidance and Heal on the other 2 Priests. And then I've got 3 Stegodon battle lines, all with Skystreak bows. You're going to be sniping these guys across the field. Those big old giant 3 damage crossbows from 24 inches, 8-inch move. These guys will hit anything. And then your Bastildons are also going to be firing. So you have this giant like monster mash list, but actually has some decent shooting in it. I mean, it has some good shooting, and then you charge everything in, doing mortals on the charge, and then you still got good combat capabilities. It's a fun list. It may not be able to hold objectives as well as some of the other lists, but each of these monsters does count as 5 models on an objective. So there's still some ability to control the objectives in the board space. So it's not bad. So that's my Stegodon list. Let's talk about what to expand into. So we've kind of looked at some of the cheaper options using the start collecting boxes, and then maybe focusing on the big monster kits. I think there's some great things that we can expand into. Seraphon's a big range, so there's everything from Kroxigor to Saurus Guard. There's lots of different models that you can expand to depending on what you want. Lord Croak is a great model too to expand into later. But some of these, I think, you're going to see a lot of play in some of those Seraphon lists that you see floating around in different tournaments. Some of those are Chameleon Skinks. They are fine cast. They are pretty terrible models. I'm not going to lie. But they come in at $25 for 5, which isn't terrible. I mean, you see that on some elite units, that same price point. But you're usually not going to spam a whole bunch of these anymore. And so, buying 2 of these kits to kind of give you some ability to teleport around the board is pretty good. And especially if you're in a list that's not quite as mobile as something in like Fangs of Sotek, Chameleon Skinks might give you that ability to move around the board a little bit more. Salamanders, you've probably heard about Salamanders. Salamanders are a great unit, probably one of our worst models. That Salamander, you can see it down there, the little orange guy, is, if you've ever put one of these things together, they are not fun. Fine cast is not fun. Salamanders can be such a cool model if they were to update it. As it is, it's $30. It's a great model to expand into. Buy a couple of these, and you're going to have a major threat on your board. The Astrolith Banner Bearer is also a fine cast model. A lot of these are fine cast here. And this is one that you'll need if you're going for that magic dominance army. He gives you pluses to your cast. He extends your range on all your spells. It extends your range on your endless spells now, which is kind of interesting. And so it is a great model to add to your army if you're looking to dominate that magic phase. Your Realm Shaper engine is, it might be one of the last pieces you buy. It's a good piece that I think is usable now, because we can set it up in our own deployment zone, which, crazily enough, when it was first released, we couldn't. It would randomly it would go on the board somewhere, but it may not be on your side. And so it does have some usability. It does have an ability to put out some mortal wounds. So I think it does need to be in your army if you're looking to be real competitive, so that you have the option to put it on the table or not, depending on what the table looks like. Depending on if you need those extra mortal wounds or you need a garrison. It will get destroyed a lot with the monstrous rampage rules, but it is a good piece to have out there. And if you're looking to go crazy, get a Dread Saurian. These things are gigantic. Its rules just got a little... The last FAQ kind of hurt it a little bit, but it is a giant, massive centerpiece of a model. So if you're looking for something to make a statement when you put a model on the board, the Dread Saurian might be for you. We do have some things that, and we mentioned some of these, are a great value in Seraphon. Because we have some of the older kits in Age of Sigmar, they haven't gotten the new pricing update yet. And so our monsters are still incredibly well priced. So you're talking $60 for an Engine of the Gods, $60 for Bastildon. if they were to re-release this model, this would be $100, $120. You saw Croak, which is smaller than these guys, is $115 for Croak, and the Engine of God is $60. So these are incredible value monsters. Most monsters in Age of Sigmar are not being priced this low, and they're getting priced quite a bit higher. If we look at some of our standalone battle line units, they're actually reasonably priced. So the Saurus Knights are $35 for 8, which is kind of weird. But if you buy 2 of these boxes, you're gonna fill out 3 battle line units. So that would be all the battle line you need right there if you're running Saurus Knights. And I think they're actually pretty good in this edition because there are 5 units in a model, so you can spread them out pretty far with the unit coherency. So I like them as my screens. I like them as objective grabbers. They're a little bit slower than some of the other models in our army, but they're fairly tough on 2 wounds each and a 4-up save. So I like those. We also have Skinks, which looks like they were temporarily unavailable when I got this picture, but you're getting 24 Skinks for $38, which is fairly aggressively priced for some of these hordes. You see some of these hordes that are coming out now are priced a little bit more than that. The Skinks, granted, aren't the best model we have out there. Once you start putting these guys' arms together, you'll know what I mean. But a good price there and an easy way to fill out an army pretty quickly with these units. So, all right, that's my start collecting on building your Seraphon army. Let me know if you've got a good way to build up a Seraphon army on the cheap, and hopefully we'll see some new models for Seraphon sometime in the future, maybe some refreshed Finecast models. So, all right, guys, let me know what you're building. Let me know what your army's looking like, and we'll catch you next time. See you guys.